Good morning, fellow rippers. Welcome back to the channel. Mick here with Grip It, Rip It, Chip It. Today's video is going to be something a little bit different. I'm going to bring you right over here and show you what we got going on. So, I know you're probably wondering what a bunch of woodworking tools has to do with a golf channel, but I'll tell you all about it. I got some changes coming up for my clubs. So right now, most of you probably know, if you follow along, I use graphite shafts in my irons. And right now, the graphite shafts that I have are called Graphaloy. I'm going to try to get this angle a little better for the light. So I have Graphaloy shafts right now, and they're good. I love them, but they're not the best. And now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with these shafts. If not, I don't know where you've been, but this is the new Fujikura Axiom shaft. Hopefully that's focusing. But these are a graphite shaft that Fujikura developed with the Velocore technology in them. So basically the way it works is there's three different profiles of the shaft. So the long irons, 2, 3, and 4 iron, have a specific shaft that is specific to them and has a specific profile. And then your mid iron shafts, the 5, 6, and 7, have a different profile. And then the shorter irons, the 8, 9 pitching wedge, have again a different profile. So on this one, I'm going to bring this in and see if this will focus. On the label here, you can see it's got the Axiom 105 stiff label in here, and then it says 5.1. I don't know what all that means, but then down right about there you see the MD. That stands for mid. So this is a mid-length shaft, and when they all come the same length, for the mid, the short is all the same length, and then all the long ones are the same length. And then you have a tipping instructions based on which particular club it's going into. So these shafts are going to be going into my clubs. I ordered these for my 4 through pitching wedge. So this is the new update for my clubs. Alright, so along with that, I'm going to have to rebuild my clubs. So I'm going to have to take them all apart, clean out the hosels, prep the shafts, new ferrules, re-glue everything, new grips, the whole thing. So I thought it would be kind of cool, along with putting my clubs together and doing all these new shafts, if I made my own ferrules. So I have some little wood samples here. These are blank pin blanks, basically, if you ever see people make pins on the internet. This is Bocote or Bocote wood. It's a really hard wood. It's a dark wood with a lot of grain in it. And so what I'm going to do today is go through the process to show you all how I'm going to make my own custom ferrules. So I have a few little blocks pre-cut, pre-marked. This is going to be about the length of the ferrule, about 1 inch, I think. So now what I'm going to do is just go through the whole process and show you from start to finish what I do to make my own custom wood ferrules. So this is going to be kind of a throwback ferrule. Not the typical. I looked online and I couldn't find anywhere that does old school wood ferrules anymore. They're all either composite, plastic, or like a resin type of a material now. So wood ferrules are very hard to find, so I'm going to have to make my own. The other thing about these ferrules is these are going to be one-off, one-of-a-kind, the only one like this in the world, because I'm making these by hand on my lathe. And so they're not going to be perfect uniform throughout the set. Some of them are going to have different grain patterns. Some of them are going to be a little different slope angle from the front to the back. Some are going to be a little bit different thickness probably. So these are going to be truly custom ferrules that are not for everybody who wants to have perfectly uniform looking clubs. So that going in, you'll know that, but that's what I want. I want mine something I made myself, and it'll be unique. So I'm just going to line it up against this surface here. Both sides are about even there. And then I'm just going to draw a line. Whoops. So that's our line. So now we have our guideline on there for how thick, how long to cut it. Now we need to go take a trip over to the barn where the miter box is. We'll cut that and then we'll be back to the lathe in a second. Alright guys, sorry it's a little dark. I don't want to go through the process of opening the door just for this one cut. I'm only going to do one in here for the sample because it is so hot in the barn right now. Where'd I put my mark? It's so hot in the barn right now, I don't want to stay in here very long, but basically I got my mark right here. It didn't show up on that pin very good, but it's right there. So I'm just going to cut that off square to the length that I need. I'm going to go just on this outside of the line so that I get the full length of what we need. And there you go. One little core, whatever you want to call it, for a ferrule. So one of my little dilemmas is when I mark the center and then drill the hole for which basically is going to be the center of the ferrule that slides over the shaft. I have it set up for the 355, a drill bit that's 355 for my hosel. The main reason that I'm doing that, rather than just drilling it to the 3.70 that the shaft is because, let me show you, when I put it on the lathe, I have to use these little collars, bushings, that basically sit inside the hole that I drill, and then they compress together to hold this tight so that it doesn't just spin on the mandrel. And I don't have a 3.70 bushing, and these are barely big enough for the 355. They work, but I have to really compress it hard and get it to tighten. So what I'm going to have to do is I'll drill it out at 355, I'll turn the ferrule, then I will either have to mark on the shaft how high up the ferrule goes with the shaft in the hosel and the ferrule, and sand down the shaft to the 355 so the ferrule can go over it. Or once I get all the ferrules done, I can go back in with my little drum sander on the Dremel and ream out the opening a little bit more so that it'll fit over the 370 part of the shaft. I'm leaning towards just shaving the shaft down to the 355 all the way up to the ferrule length, because the depth or the thickness of the wall of the ferrule is going to be pretty small anyway, and so I'm afraid if I ream out with the sander to the 370, it's going to make the walls too thin and then they'll crack and break. So with a little thicker wall, trim the shaft down to where the ferrule will fit over it. I think that'll work good. So basically all I do is take my ruler and I go from corner to corner. Well, you're not going to be able to see that very good because my hand is in the way, but I'll do it this way. So we're going to go corner to corner on one side, mark a line, corner to corner on the other side, mark a line, and the intersection of those two lines is the middle. Now, as you all know, I am not the safest person in the world. I do things not the way you're supposed to do it. So I wouldn't recommend doing this at home this way. They do make a little guard, I guess you call it, or brace clamp that you can put these in that'll hold it on the drill press to drill it. I don't have one of those, so basically all I'm doing is bringing this down, pressing it to mark the center, and then I'm going to hold it with my fingers. I go really slow so that it doesn't move around on me, but this is not the ideal way to do this. And the other thing, you'll see me, because this wood is so hard, even though the drill bit is a good drill bit and it's going through, it gets extremely hot, and the shavings just off of the wood actually are really hot. So you're going to see me blowing it off constantly. That's not so much, it helps for you guys to see, but that's not just so you can see. That's because these things get so hot that it's actually hard to hold this in place while I'm drilling it. And there we go. Broke through the other side. There's our hole for the ferrule. So that's that. Alright, so now that we got our wood secured in, we can bring our tailstock over. We're going to lock that in place. And then we just move that in to gently hold this side of it. We'll lock that in place. And then we put our tool rest over here, lock that in, and now we're ready to start whittling away. So I have a couple different tools. This is kind of my flat gouger. I have a round kind of shaper, and then I have like a plunge sharp knife. I tend to use this one, the squared off one, for the most part until I get down close to where I need to be, and then I use the round one to kind of smooth it. This one just takes off material quicker. So always, once you get everything set up, turn your material to make sure it's clear of the tool rest and nothing's hitting or anything. Alright, so we got it up here. Now, at the very first, this wood is so hard, I have to take just little, like very, very little off each time. But we'll go through and see if we can get this whittled down and show you the process to make a ferrule. Let's see where we're at. Guy across the field there's plowing, so a little noise in the background. So there, it's rounded off, and then I have my little digital calipers here, and I know that at my top end where it's going to meet the hosel, the hosels of my club outside diameter is 0.52 inches diameter. So I just keep whittling this down until I get that down to about 0.54, and then the rest of the way I'll use my sanding paper to get it down to the size that we need. So let's keep going. Let's see where we're at, how close we're getting. So far we're at 0.68. A little ways to go. Alright, so now I'm going to switch to my round bit, kind of more of a shaper bit. Helps me kind of smooth it off a little bit. And kind of curl this front edge a little bit so that it molds kind of into the hosel a little bit better. That's looking pretty close, so let's check that. 0.56. So we'll go down just a little bit more with our shaper and then we'll sand. By 5. This is where I have to be careful because I don't want to take off too much and then go too low. By 4. Alright, so now we can move our tool rest out of the way. I'm going to grab some sandpaper and I'll show you that process. Alright, for the sanding, I'm going to start with a piece of 120 grit and basically just turn this on, hold the paper up to the wood, and sand it off. And actually for this, I'm going to move you guys around to the other side. So that's basically just the process. Hold it there. It gets a little hot depending on how much pressure, but I don't have to put my finger on it. I just kind of hold the paper and pull it. Once you put your finger on to get a little more material off, it does get hot. So then I just kind of sand it and then I keep checking where I'm at depth wise. That's 5.3, so we're almost there. This sanding process right now also kind of helps to shape the taper. I can put a little more pressure in the middle if it looks like there's a bump or anything and kind of get that out of there. But basically it's coming down to be just even with the outside diameter of this bushing, which tends to be a nice thickness depth for the end of the ferrule at the on the end of the shaft there. So that worked out perfect. All right, so there we are at 0.52. Now I'm going to switch to 220 grit just for a little tiny bit. That's just going to smooth it out a little bit. You can almost see it. I don't know if the camera picked it up, but you can almost see it kind of change color as it smooths out. Take some of that grain out. Just enough. And now I'm moving to some wet dry. I can't remember what, I think it's 600 grit maybe, wet dry. So I'm just going to get a little moisture on there. And then just take this and this will really smooth it out. Almost polishes it really. Now if it goes a little tiny bit under the 0.52, yeah, that's nice and smooth. I don't care because then it'll sit just below the outside diameter of the ferrule. But if it's right at 5.2, it should be even with the outside diameter. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is perfect, 0.52. And there you have a one-off, custom-made wood throwback ferrule that will go on my golf clubs. Pretty cool. I will probably finish it with a an epoxy resin to harden on top of it and make it nice and clear and shiny and hard. So this will basically sit with the club head out, and then that'll be the ferrule on there with all that nice wood grain you can see. And once I get the lacquer on there and the epoxy, the resin to shine it up, it will look really cool, I think. I made this one last night, and I got to thinking, a lot of the custom ferrules you get that are the black or, you know, whatever color, they'll have like a silver ring in it. So I made one, and then I cut a groove and I put a little, I don't have silver paint, but I have like a gray fill-in paint. So this one is gray. This is the standard ferrule. Let me put it against my shirt, maybe that'll help pull it out. Standard ringed. Which one do you guys like better? Put it in the comments below. Do you like it with this custom rings in it, or do you like it just standard straight wood without the rings? Now, the reason I did the gray rings is my club heads are the silver, the chrome, and then it's going to be a black shaft, and this wood will contrast against the black shaft. And then for new grips, I'm thinking about putting the new Lambkin Sonar Plus that's got black with kind of a silver inlay on the lines, and I thought the gray silver color on that would look good with the grip, with everything else blacked, and then the chrome head. So that's it, guys. Custom ferrules. One that's got little silver rings in it, and then one that's just standard. I haven't decided which I'm going to do yet. I'm leaning towards the silver rings, putting those in each one of them, but I'm not sure yet. Comment below, what do you think? Silver rings or no silver rings? And then also give me a comment what you think. Oh, my lens looks all dirty. Give me a comment what you think about my custom little wood ferrules. Kind of a throwback. You don't see wood ferrules on golf clubs anymore. So what do you think? Process to make them, kind of cool, little handmade one-off ferrules. All of them are going to be different because the grain's not going to match up. Probably the slope or the contour of them is not going to match up perfect. Even the length is not going to match up perfect because, like, I'm cutting them with that miter box, that power miter box, and the blade on that's pretty thick. It's not like a real thin bandsaw blade that I can make them precise cuts. So depending on where I put it on the line, it could be, these things could be off by a couple millimeters in length on each one. But I don't care. It makes it more custom, more unique that way. So alright guys, I am back. It's been a couple of days. I was able to get my clubs rebuilt and put back together, so I just wanted to show you the final product. So got the new Axiom shafts in, the 9-iron, and then there is the ferrule. Hopefully that'll focus. So I've got a couple of clubs just to show you how unique these are. That's the 9-iron, and then this is the 4-iron. And I think it'll show up how much, a little bit different coloring that is, and how it looks a little bit different. So there's both of them sitting side by side. So far I really like how they turned out. I had a little bit of trouble because of with the Axiom shafts being the 370, having to taper those down to the 355 to fit into my clubs. That part is easy enough. Trying to get the shaft just right at the length of where the ferrule goes was a little difficult, and a couple of them you would see if you, like this one, if you look right where it joins to the hosel, the ferrule right there, there's a little gap. Partly that's because a couple of them, the wood cracked a little bit as I put them on. and so I had to kind of hold it together, and then that kind of separated it from the hosel just a bit. So trying to get the exact diameter throughout the whole area for the graphite shaft was a little difficult. Now tapering those graphite shafts down to fit in the hosel, that's not very difficult because it's a tapered thing. You don't have to have it exactly parallel all the way through. These ferrules, however, are not tapered. They're the same diameter all the way through, and so if there's a little bit of a high spot in the graphite, that's what caused it to crack a little bit. So I'll figure that out, but so far they look pretty good. I like them. Very unique. Only person in the world with ferrules like this, because I made them one-off and nobody else has them, so they're kind of cool. And that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you like something a little bit different. Still golf related, building the ferrules, but you know, it's just a little bit different with some woodworking. Let me know down below, would you use these type of ferrules? Is it something you're interested in? And what do you think? How do they look? Rate them 1 to 10 down below. And if you don't like them, don't worry, I got thick skin. I don't care. If it's not for you, it's not for you, but I do like them. So hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, hit them long, hit them straight. We'll see you later.